On our website, you can sign up for an account and get matched with scholarships. And there's 5 tips that we have on getting scholarships. And we will also be uncovering this in more detail in our webinar next week. So if you would like to learn more about using our website and some of the services that we offer, like scholarship alerts and some great tips on finding scholarships, then please join us for a presentation. But if you have anything more specific, we'd be happy to answer some of your questions now. As well, we're also on Facebook and on Twitter. And on our Twitter channel, you can also get some great tips on finding scholarships and other study tips as well, which I've been sharing for the past few days. So great information there. And our webinar. So in terms of the events, you may have found us through our events page or you received an email from us, but you can certainly look at our future presentations or download past PowerPoint presentations from our website. We do have more events coming in May. We're just finalizing the schedule for that, so stay tuned for more updates there. And in terms of the other resources that Faiza mentioned earlier, other than Scholarships Canada, feel free to check out the Government of Canada website at CanLearn or other alternative financial aid that you can look at. And for for students attending an American university, feel free to go to fastweb.com. So right now we're going to look at some of the questions that you have, and let's go from there.
The first question we have here is it harder to get transfer scholarships rather than just out of high school?
Not necessarily. It's just a matter of looking for what you're eligible for. So that's when websites like Scholarships Canada are really useful, because when you build your profile, you can pick what year you're in and what year you're interested in. They have scholarships available for students throughout their university career. So there's lots of opportunities out there. It's just a matter of using websites like that to help connect you to them.
Perfect. How do you strike the balance between flattering them or not mentioning them at all and sort of sounding a little bit snobby? By the sounds of it, I guess it's an essay where you have to talk about the organization that's awarding it. So how do you sort of navigate that line between flattering too much and not giving them enough attention?
Well, again, it kind of just depends on how the question itself is structured. But just in general, it's usually easy to tell when you've gone overboard in terms of flattery. You know, you can tell when someone's going a little over the top, so you never want to try too hard. You want to make sure that you show your knowledge. So show your knowledge in the sense that you know what their values are, what their mission statement is, and what they're all about. So as long as you recognize that, at least in some way, shape, or form, I don't think you necessarily have to go off into a whole stream about all their great accomplishments, because that's not what's going to make you stand out. So just make sure that you acknowledge the key points, and that should be a good base to work from.
Yeah, and I think a good litmus test is just to simply ask somebody else, show somebody else your essay, and ask them for feedback, whether they think it's too much or not enough or anything like that.
The next question we have is it better to list the career you like or want to pursue in an essay?
Like, I guess meaning if you should mention the career you're interested in an essay? If you have an interest, definitely throw it in there. That can tie into the future reference in the conclusion, or you could even have a whole paragraph about it if you have a lot to say. Definitely throw that in there if it's something that you've done a lot of thinking on and you have some key points to make, because again, that just further clarifies that you have a future plan in place and this is the goal that you're ultimately working towards, and that their scholarship will help you achieve.
Perfect. The next question we have is there a limit to the amount of scholarships you can apply to?
Not a limit for the amount that you can apply to. In terms of the amount that you can win, it depends on what you're applying for. So certain scholarships may be based on financial need. So certain foundations and organizations, they may ask you how much you've won in scholarship money. So if you've won X amount already, then you aren't eligible anymore to receive their scholarship. So there's definitely not a limit to how many you can apply for, though. I would apply for as many as you possibly can Plus, applying for the first 3 applications is much work as sending off the next 10. It's just a matter of building your scholarship foundation and gaining the understanding and awareness of how the applications work. So you definitely want to just apply, apply, apply. I cannot stress that enough.
Someone's actually wondering which scholarships you won when you were in grade 12.
Some of the ones that I won the Gordon M. Shrum Scholarship from SFU. I won the Chancellor's Entrance Scholarship from UBC. I won, there was a lot of local BC ones. I won Coast Capital Savings. I won BC Hydro. I won 16 in total, and I applied for 30 in grade 12. There's a list of all of them on the About Britney page on my website, and most of them are still available today, so it'd be definitely great to look into those for yourself as well.
Perfect. Next question. Is it important to reach the maximum word count, or is it okay to be short by almost half for the essay?
You don't want to be short by almost half, because usually when they say, answer in under 500 words and about 500 words, they kind of mean that they want about that much from you. If you're a little bit under, say you're 50 words under and you really have absolutely nothing else to say about the topic, then that could be okay, but you don't want to send in 250 words when that's a 500-word essay, because then that way it might just be viewed from them as not putting in the amount of effort that they're looking for. So you want to try to be as close to the word count as possible. If you're a little bit under, then it's nothing to stress about.
We have a question here about how do I know when to submit my application, and more importantly, the schools that you're applying to a scholarship for. So I think if I'm interpreting this question correctly, in terms of timing, you should always submit your application around the scholarship deadline, and definitely beforehand. You don't want to cut it too close. There are a lot of automatic scholarships, so if you're applying for a particular school, you may not need to do a separate scholarship application. By basically applying to the school, you'll automatically be considered for those scholarships. So if that's what you mean, I hope that helps. How do I choose who would write reference letters for my scholarship? For example, I had to get a teacher reference, and I know a lot of teachers very well, so who should I choose?
In regards to reference letters, it's really important who you choose, simply because a reference can make or break your scholarship application. The committee really likes to hear that extra voice from the school or from the community that views you as a great scholarship candidate. So by having said that, you can never have too many reference letters on hand. If you know 4 teachers that would write you a great reference letter, then by all means, ask all 4, and then you can just keep them on hand and use them for whatever application becomes most appropriate or they most reflect the values that they're looking for. What you always want to focus on with people who write you reference letters, you want to choose someone who knows you well enough to eloquently express how awesome you are, because that's really what you need from them. If you choose someone who doesn't know you that well, then you can end up with a paragraph-long letter that will do nothing to really enhance your application. So just go with someone who knows you well. Try to choose people from different areas of your life. As a rule of thumb, always try to have at least one from the community and one from school, just because certain applications will ask you for that. Plus, if you choose people who know you in a different capacity, they can highlight different strengths and present a more well-rounded picture of who you are to the scholarship committee. But you just want to keep in mind that you want to make it as easy as possible for the person writing the reference letter. So you want to give them a copy of your resume or activities list. They have a list of everything you've been involved with. You want to give them ample time. Don't knock on their door the day before it's due. And you just also can be helpful sometimes to provide them with the application itself, because some of them will have specific questions. For the most part, it's usually a general reference, but it can get a little nitpicky with some of them. So you want to make sure they know what's expected of them as well.
The next question we have is, if you're offered a scholarship of a certain amount for a year, is it okay to attend the institution until the scholarship is used up and then transfer? That's tricky.
Ooh. Well, it's really up to you. It depends on what the contract is with your scholarship. Certain scholarships, especially if it's in disbursements over multiple semesters, there's certain criteria you have to follow or be involved with. So it's going to depend by each individual institution, but it's really up to you in terms of where you want to study. And if it's somewhere you applied to in the first place, then it's probably a great institution that you're interested in. So it's really up to you and what your own educational goals are.
The next question we have is, how many full scholarships are there on average for international students? And what are the chances of getting a scholarship if you are an international student? So to answer that question, if you use our site, we actually have a checkbox where you can mark that you are an international student, and then we'll show you any awards that we have where international students could qualify for it. Sometimes you can look at various cultural organizations that might offer scholarships based on heritage. So if you are an international student coming from that country, you may be eligible for that scholarship. I will say that the majority of the awards on our site are for Canadian students, but we do have a handful of international. So definitely check them out. And then also, if you're in doubt, contact the school that you're going to and check with their financial aid office to see if there are any opportunities for you there. The next question we have is, if my application content is not that great, should I bother with the big scholarships like the Loran and the National?
I'm not sure what you mean by application content. Probably maybe you're meaning your own activities and background. You never want to underestimate yourself, simply because, like I said, we kind of think that super kids win scholarships, and we often sell ourselves short in that regard. You want to be confident. Like I mentioned at the beginning, that girl I talked about who scared the life of me about scholarships and how she won that major entrance scholarship, I ended up winning the exact same entrance scholarship to UBC that she did. So that's just a perfect example that we can be our own worst enemies when it comes to this. So that's why you want to, again, apply for everything you can get your hands on. Even though there's more competition with the bigger scholarship foundations, it's a great learning experience. It's a great experience in general is to go through the process of putting together that application. And every application is a building block. It's a stepping stone. It helps you become more prepared for the other ones you're going to encounter further down the line. So never sell yourself short, and always apply for everything that you possibly can.
Perfect. Next question. Should you send multiple reference letters with your scholarships, or is one enough?
It depends what they ask for. Usually they'll make it pretty clear. They'll either say include, 1, 2, 3, etc. Now, if you have, say they only ask for 1, but there's 2 you really want to send in, you want to make sure you read through the application carefully. Certain applications will allow you to include supporting materials, so just additional information to further highlight your strengths. If they allow you to do that, then you could submit the additional reference letter. However, if they're usually pretty clear about it, they'll either say don't include anything other than what we've given you or include X amount of information. If you're ever unsure, but you still really want to send that in, then before you do, make sure you take a moment and contact the committee directly. Usually there's contact information listed on the application. They're often very happy to answer questions that you may have. And it's good to double check with things like that, just because you don't want to submit more information to help you stand out and as a result jeopardize your entire application. So you just want to have that extra level of assurance to make sure that it's okay.
The next question, which is preferred, handwritten or typed application forms?
I would go with typed up if possible for you, just because it can be really difficult to read handwritten applications depending on how your writing is. So it's just good to go with typewritten ones if that's something that you can do, just because it's guaranteed clear and concise, and you don't have to worry about them not being able to read your writing as something that works against you in the application.
Next question, can entrance scholarships be used in the second or third year?
With entrance scholarships, it kind of depends what it is. If it's automatic entrance scholarship, like they were mentioning before, it could be just a certain sum of money that you get one time. However, if you win a major entrance scholarship, so say you win $24,000, they won't write you a $24,000 check. What they'll often do is break it down to disbursements. So maybe 8 disbursements of $3,000 each. Usually for those bigger ones, you often have to meet certain criteria to receive your next disbursement. So you may have to be involved in register an X amount of credits or maintain a certain GPA, or meet with the committee every year to fill them in on what you're up to. So it depends. Every application can be a little unique in that regard.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I was going to add is when in doubt, you should ask the scholarship provider. With our scholarship listings, we do provide contact information. So you can check with them to see if you'd like, for example, for your entrance award to be split up, so that you get a chunk of money in your first year and the next in your second year, just so you can manage it. You can check with them if that's possible. The other question we sometimes have as well is, what if I win an entrance award and I decide to delay going to school for a year, so I've deferred? Can I still use that same scholarship? And I think you can, but again, it might depend on the scholarship provider. They might just ask to make sure that you have your confirmed acceptance for the year after, and they'll hold it for you. So they won't give you the scholarship as soon as you graduated, but they'll give you as soon as you start. So when in doubt, just ask. Next question we have is, what are some other good scholarship websites? So the ones that we have listed here are good, useful sources. We also mentioned studentawards.com. And then, as I said, you can check out the financial aid page of any schools that you're looking to go to. If you, as Brittany was mentioning, take a look at the network you have around you, so you can take a look at maybe family and friends and where they're working, or any organizations and associations they're involved with. Check out their pages as well. You can also ask, for example, your family members to check with their companies. Oftentimes companies offer scholarships that they don't necessarily advertise publicly, but they might offer them internally to their employees. So you can ask them, so you can get your family to ask if there are any scholarships available.